Thank you, Russell, and welcome everyone here today. We, like all of us, probably a little bit mixed emotion, isn't it? You know, just what we're feeling is and one thing about footy clubs is they don't wait for anyone. The game doesn't stop, doesn't stand still. Doesn't stand still for any person, doesn't stand still for any club. And even when reflecting the very short period of time, and I only learnt tonight about Jim's decision, you have your very important moments of reflection as part of that. And what we've just seen in regard to where our club now finds itself and the opportunities that we have, which I would consider now to be the best opportunity strategically, if we're talking in the context of that, for our club to make and take the steps. It is the best opportunity we've had, I think, in probably 3 or 4 generations of supporters of our club. And the reflection on that immediately is obviously to the catalyst to that, which is Jim as president. And the one thing I know with Jim more than anything, though, he would recognise, as important as all that is, the most important thing is actually what we do from this point onwards. And the immediacy of that will obviously be with our players and with our coaches, because effectively what has happened over the last period of time since Jim came to our club as president, or returned to the club as president, is that he's given these young guys the opportunities perhaps that players who had played immediately before them, or in maybe 2 or 3 generations of players before them, hadn't actually been given. And whilst we recognise, as Stuart has said, that a great balance sheet or a strong balance sheet, that quality facilities to develop and train our players and manage our club, a profit model which is giving us an opportunity, and as we mentioned before, good, strong, respectful, mutual relationships with the MCC and the AFL and government. For all that actually means, and they're very much key components of a tangible future, we also know that the most important steps have not yet been taken. And last year was a lot about that. Whilst momentum was maintained as a business and some key achievements were made, in particular the Bentley Club, it's perhaps not our reflection of the 2011 year, because for much of the 2011 year, the game actually reminded us of just how challenging and tough it is. And it was a year which held hope, but in the end was probably a little bit more remembered for the disappointments, and that's at many levels. And it was also a year where, for one reason or another, our integrity as a club was also questioned, in a way perhaps no one thought was actually possible. But just as importantly, it was recognised that the measure of our people was always going to be by how quickly and how purposefully we could actually right the ship. And the opportunity presented itself through the rebuilding of our football structures, and including, and most importantly, the appointment of the next coach of the Melbourne Football Club. So despite the challenges of last year, we were determined right from the outset to position the coach of our club as an outstanding coaching opportunity, and also as part of it rejig the momentum that was so important in the years leading up to this time. So, but our positivity as part of this was based on 3 key components. Firstly, as we mentioned before, Melbourne as a club was in the best position that it's been in strategically for many decades. And so this allowed our club to not only look at the position of coach, but to also assess the model that was required to give us the best chance, and with the total confidence that we had a club which could attract the best people. Secondly, we think we have a very coachable playing group. It has significant upside, as we often talk about, but its upside both in terms of its credentials, but we believe strongly that its upside in its want to fulfil its own potential. And finally, we're a very determined football club. It's never been as easy for Melbourne as perhaps people think it is. And the determination that we've actually got has been modelled by our president. And it's hard to imagine a more determined individual whoever graced the ground out there than Jim Stynes. And it's a determination that won't be swayed by public opinion, particularly those who don't necessarily share the vision that we have for our club or the commitment that you have for your club. But it also recognises that riding a few bumps along the way is just part of it. And great organisations and great clubs are based on great people who know and understand that that's just part of dealing with life in this competition. And we'll never move away from the need to have great people in our club, and we can never compromise from that point of view. And I think it was probably a determination which was underestimated. And it played out at a time when a number of other clubs were also looking to put in place their own coaching structures. From our perspective, we had a clear mantra, and that was to be the first club to appoint the coach. And in doing so, make sure that we attracted the person we wanted for the role. We also wanted to look at it as strategically a little bit different to what it's been in the past, that we looked at what we call a performance model rather than purely an operational model. And this was significant because it enabled the club to actually move quickly once we'd appointed Mark Neeld as senior coach, who was our strongly preferred candidate. And we're able to systematically and aggressively structure a team around him that complemented him as a coach and supported his coaching philosophies. And it came together very quickly. It seemed that each day during the month of September and October, our club was making another announcement of a person who we chased and we hunted to play critical roles in our organisation. And it's an attitude that we want to be known for. And it came together more quickly perhaps than what we actually thought, and it probably reached another level when we were able to attract Neil Craig as Director of Sports Performance, which is significant. It's significant not only in what he brings in terms of his own acumen, his own understanding, but to lead a performance model, not an operational model, but to also provide support for a coach who's coaching an AFL club for the first time, but also to ensure that there's high expectations and accountability and the no excuses expectation. We think we've put together an off-field team that runs deep, both in terms of acumen and resources. And perhaps pleasing even in the months that have gone on since then, to have these guys actually come to the board or come to myself and say, just so you know, your club doesn't want for anything. And that is something which, perhaps more than any other comment which has been made, that we're proud of. Because more than anything, when we know that the measure will be what actually happens now, but more than anything, we want to make sure that we give these players the best chance of having great careers and for the next generation of Melbourne people to have great time watching our club. It heralds the next phase for the Melbourne Footy Club. We also recognise that it's a stage where we want to let the scoreboard be our judge. Thanks very much.